It's always been curious to me in today's gospel reading about why Jesus prohibits or instructs his disciples not to go into pagan territory or into Samaritan towns, right? Why does he do that? We know at the end of the gospel, when he gives them the Great Commission in Matthew 28, verse 19, he says to them, go and make disciples of all nations, right? It is a universal mission. Go to make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And so it's been curious to me, well, why did Jesus limit that to the lost sheep of the house of Israel? And I think at least part of that answer is about God's unfolding patience and plan of salvation to prepare a people for a Messiah, to prepare the hearts of men and women for the opportunity to encounter God's love made manifest in the flesh, right? That there was a time of preparation, a time of covenant, of renewal, of failure and restoration, of how people began to know and understand God more fully so that their hearts were ready and our lives were ready to receive the birth of the Messiah, of Jesus. And Jesus himself then sends out today those 12 to those people who have been prepared and are ready, but the mission will extend to the whole world, to all of us. In the first reading, we hear part of that preparation, right? We hear of Moses speaking with God, or vice versa, God speaking with Moses and being able to share with him what he has done for the people, brought them out of the land of Egypt, what he's been able to do for them, but they become his special possession, right? They become his people, a kingdom or a people of priests to serve God, right? A special relationship with God. But God desires that relationship with all of us, and all of us in some ways need to be prepared, right? We need to be ready for that. Many of you know that earlier this year, in May, I went with our 8th grade, about 48 8th graders that went to Washington, D.C., and I went as a chaperone for a group of 8th grade students. Everybody say, oh my. Now, if you think that was bad, imagine being one of the 8th grade students and being told that your chaperone is going to be the priest. I did not feel prepared for that. I had not been a chaperone in that way, so I got some remedial training, right? I had some instruction from the principal and some of the other teachers. How do I do this well? Because I don't want to kind of get on that and not be a good chaperone. And so I did that, and I was prepared as best you can be. You know, experience sometimes is the best trainer, if you will. And so I got on there, and a lot had been made before the trip and on the beginning of the trip about expectations and consequences, right? And so we were setting up a high expectations of behavior for the 8th grade students and what the consequences were, how you went about, instructing or really correcting and then calling parents and then sending people home. Like this is the way. There's not going to be a whole lot of wiggle room here. This is the way you do it. So I entered the first day with the kind of mindset, okay, I'm setting expectations and I'm helping to make sure that there's consequences if they don't follow or meet those expectations. By the end of the first day, it was not going very well, right? And I realized something upon reflection is that some of the students, they were great, great kids, but some of the students didn't have the capacity to meet the expectations on their own. They didn't have the ability to do that all by themselves. Right? And so some of what they needed was my presence, my investment, some of my assistance to help meet expectations. So if during a presentation when someone's speaking and another child is speaking, sometimes they need help when you tell them, stop speaking. They need you to come and stand by them to remind them that they shouldn't be speaking, right? Sometimes you need to coach them, or you need to be able to explain the reasoning behind it and then provide some demonstration of the behavior you're expecting and then being able to guide them in the midst of that behavior, right? That there's these kinds of things that you can help them to do, and then to be able to coach a little bit and to provide that direction for them, that guidance. So it takes an investment on the part of the chaperone, of me, to be with them and in their lives and part of what they are growing into, right? And so I think that's part of the reflection of God preparing a people, right? That he was with his people, that he was guiding them and coaching them, instructing them, demonstrating to them how to live a life in relationship with him. We had gone to the National Museum of Natural History. So that's the one that has the dinosaurs and all the stones and things like that in there. And we were with our group. We had just gone to the Hope Diamond. So do you know what the Hope Diamond is? So very big diamond. It's beautiful. We'd taken our picture, so they could share it with the parents. So we'd done that, and one of the kids was standing, reading one of the placards on the wall, just standing there and reading through that, and I was about 3 feet away and kind of watching, trying to see what he was reading. And another one of the boys comes up from my group and comes up to him and pushes him hard into the wall. Right in front of me. I'm like, what are you doing? So I was like, I brought him aside so I wasn't embarrassing him, right? I was like, why did you do that? I don't know. And after thinking he was trying to evade the question, I thought, he really doesn't know. He's being honest, right? He doesn't know why he did it. And so we were able to kind of talk about, I said, sometimes when you get a thought, you need a filter, right? You need a filter to say, is this the right time? Is this the right person? Is this a good thing to do? Is this consistent with who I am or who I want to be? You need to be able to kind of process through. On Father's Day, I recall the instruction of my dad many times, think before you speak, right? Is there a filter to help you kind of figure out what the next step or the next decision should be? So he went through that. He seemed to appreciate it. He was a great kid. And then afterwards, he did something very, very moving to me. He wrote me a thank you card. And in the thank you card, he said, I will always remember the filter, right? I think God works with us to prepare our hearts to enter into relationship with Jesus. He does coach us along our lives. He comes to be with us, especially in the Eucharist. In this Eucharist, he comes to be with us to give us nourishment and strength, to help guide us and give us that standing presence with him next to us, right? He desires for us to move forward in our relationship, and he loves us. Jesus in the gospel reading has pity on the people because they were like sheep without a shepherd, without a guide, without someone to protect them, right? In the second reading, we hear that God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, gave his life for us. May we be open in this Eucharist to that presence of God that comes to be with us and prepare us to walk this day and through this week with Jesus. That we ourselves have a filter, Jesus Christ himself, on how we should act, on who we should be, on the directions we should take, and on the decisions we should make. May this Eucharist give us that filter, if you will, but give us God's guiding protection, his hand, his presence, and may we be open to the mystery of his love.